As we celebrate Black History Month, we have a very special guest with us in studio. Acclaimed journalist and author Wil Haygood is here as part of the launch of his new book, The War Within a War, The Black Struggle in Vietnam and at Home. And first off, welcome home, sir. A lot of folks may not realize that you are originally from Columbus. How much time do you get to spend here now?
I come back about 3 or 4 times a year. I still have many family members here and dear friends here, and the current mayor, who I consider a dear friend, Mayor Ginther, and the past mayor, Mayor Coleman. So I have a lot of friends here.
Well, we are glad to see you and glad that you are here with us this week. Tell us about your new book, The War Within a War, The Black Struggle in Vietnam and at Home, and why you decided to make this topic the focus of your latest work.
Yes, well, of course, the Vietnam War is a big mountain to climb. It was the nation's first racially integrated war, and it was the longest war in the nation's history. It lasted 12 plus years. But there are missing parts of that war for the general public, and I knew what that missing part was. It was the story of the black soldier, the black men and women who went to Vietnam in the midst of the civil rights battles in the country. So there were 2 wars going on if you were black. And so that was a big gaping wound that people really didn't know about, because you're fighting a war and the main word from on high is patriotism. Everybody wants America to put its best foot forward during any war, World War I or the Korean War or World War II. And so the elephant in the room in the Vietnam War, of course, was race, because civil rights was being talked about, and at the same time, blacks were being pulled into that war in larger numbers than white soldiers were being. And so I knew it was a epic story fraught with drama from all angles, from President Lyndon Johnson and President John F. Kennedy and President Richard Nixon. This war swept 3 presidents into its thrall. And so as a biographer, as a journalist, as an investigative reporter, I knew it had all the things that made me so intrigued throughout 5 years to keep telling this story and researching it.
Well, if we look at the cover, we would think this is a book about the soldiers involved, but you incorporated artists and doctors and a variety of occupations as part of this war, the war within the war, defining the black experience. Why did you decide to incorporate so many roles in discussing this topic? Why was that important for this?
Great question. It was a cultural war for black people. So you had journalists, black journalists, from the black newspapers, because the mainstream newspapers didn't have very many blacks on their staffs. And so you had journalists from black newspapers, Simeon Booker from Jet Magazine, who landed in Vietnam and wrote some of the first articles focusing on the black soldier. You had Ethel Payne, who wrote articles for the Chicago Defender. She landed in Vietnam. You had Marvin Gaye, the Motown singer, who made a seminal album, anti-war album, What's Going On, a haunting album. And Marvin Gaye wrote that album because his brother went to Vietnam and came back with various issues, suffered, like many people who came back from the war. And there were nurses who haven't been written about. There's a nurse by the name of Dorothy Harris, who I found in Cincinnati, Ohio, and one of the bravest women who I've ever met. She was in Vietnam, and so when you put all of these things together, aside from the guns, the bullets, the blood, you have this forced brotherhood between whites and blacks who, for the first time in the nation's history, spent intimate time together. We might be segregated when we go back home. You live in the inner city and I live in the suburb, but now we're in the jungle fighting a formidable foe. And so we do have to bond, even if it's a forced bonding. And there were some beautiful stories, aside from the tragedies between blacks and whites that came out of the Vietnam War. I highlight one case where Air Force pilot Fred Cherry, who was the first black officer as a POW in Vietnam, and he shared a cell for 8 months with a white Southerner. And the North Vietnamese, in their thinking was, okay, these two guys are going to kill each other, a black man and a white Southerner. But they became lifesavers to each other. Each other wrapped bandages around the other. When one was tortured, the other helped him get better. They inspired each other to stay alive, and they became, after they both were released, they became lifelong friends. And so there are these magical moments amidst all of this horror of war.
Those are special connections to celebrate too, amidst this, as you shared.
Yeah.
In one of your previous books, The Butler, you described the challenges of the making of the movie based on your article and about Eugene Allen and some of those challenges. It's budgets, it's location, it's weather. And you describe a sign hanging in the production office: there is no other option. This film will be made. There is no other option. And I was struck by that in thinking about your work, because there are so many topics that you could approach with your journalism and your focus and your investigative nature. But in so many ways, it feels like sharing the Black experience is your calling, that there is no other option. Do you feel a responsibility there?
Yes, I do. I mean, before I had written one book, I had the opportunity and pleasure to meet James Baldwin, and he's such a gigantic literary figure, and I hadn't written one book, and I'm sitting in Massachusetts in a home with the great James Baldwin, and at the end of my interview, I said, "Sir, can I ask you something personal?" And he said, "Sure, what is it?" And I asked him, I said, "Do you think that I will someday be able to write books now?" And again, at this point in my life, I hadn't written one book. And he raised his voice and said, "How the hell should I know that? I don't know who you are. It takes discipline to write books. It takes a lot of discipline to write books. Why you ask me a question like that? What you're capable of doing?" And he could see how hurt I was. And of course, James Baldwin's mission in life was to write about the Black experience in America and about how this country has been tortured over race since slavery. And so he saw how hurt I was, and he scooted his chair a little closer to me, and he said, "But I'll tell you what, baby, whatever you do in life, you must go the way your blood beats. You must go the way your blood beats." I quote that to my students where I teach at Miami University. And those words are on my writing wall in my home in Washington, D.C. And so here I sit 10 books later. And so, I've written about a lot of things. You know, I've written about war. I've been around the world twice. I've covered major conflicts in Somalia, in Liberia, in India. I was in South Africa when Nelson Mandela walked to freedom. And so all of these things, I think, have influenced me. I like to think that my career has been very versatile, is very versatile, but how can you not listen to Marvin Gaye and not want to write about the Vietnam War? How can you not study the life of Philippa Schuyler, who was a concert pianist who left that career to go rescue biracial orphans in Vietnam. And she came to an unfortunate end in Vietnam, but it's a worthy story to tell. And I think my cultural sensitivity, if you will, I think that has opened the road wide for me to write the kind of books I write. They are literally the books that I don't see in the bookstore when I walk into the bookstore. I wrote a book about Sammy Davis Jr., and there hadn't been a book about Sammy Davis Jr. until I wrote it. I wrote a book about the confirmation hearings of Thurgood Marshall. Now, there had been books about Thurgood Marshall, but not about the confirmation hearings. And just as with this book, The War Within a War, there was a broad, unwritten landscape about black soldiers in Vietnam and what they went through. And by telling this story, I'm also able to tell some of the beautiful stories, some of the beautiful things that happened between white and black soldiers that have stayed with the soldiers who I interviewed. Those interactions have stayed with them forever, and that's quite thrilling to listen to and to write about.
As you said, not just the blood and the bullets.
Right, not just the blood and the bullets, you're right.
There's a special launch for your book here in Columbus this Saturday night where you will gather and share a little bit personally about the process and writing this book. What do you hope people take away from that gathering and from this work?
Yes, I'm very honored to be at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. That means a lot to me. It's almost, seems like this book was written to debut at that museum, and so I'm very touched that the folks there wanted this book to be launched there and to be highlighted there, because it is a place where storytellers have gathered since it opened, filmmakers, artists, writers, veterans, past and present, and so there is no better place for a book with this subject matter to be launched than here. And it's just extra beautiful that I happen to be from Columbus. Senator Glenn was my senator, and Skip Dunn lived right across the street from me. I mean, it's almost like something out of a Disney movie. I mean,
all of that coming together.
All these things that have come together has really been pretty astonishing. And it's nice that friends of mine from all over the country will be flying in for this event.
Well, we are honored that you spent some time with us. Ahead of that, Wil Haygood is here for that special program discussing his book. It's going to happen this Saturday, February 28th at 7 p.m. at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. Admission is free, but tickets are required, and we do have a link at 10tv.com/featured links. Wil Haygood, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.